Hello, and welcome to Day 11. I used to say things like, "You can only find my feelings in the lyrics of someone else's song." The music of many genres has gotten me. Through various times in my life, there were plenty of those moments when I couldn't cry, but deep down, I felt like I needed to. I would literally have to fall into the songs completely, singing along all off tune, feeling every word just to attempt to let it out. But I didn't realize my connection to music was because of the creative ways that the words were laid on the track. Honestly, this is a connection I am making now as I paint the picture of the story behind Lost, But Not Left, my now published book. As I slowly became meticulous and shut down all things negative, the way I saw things as I reflected began to change. And the more movies I watched, the more I began to try and watch them from the writer's perspective. The further I dug, the more it made me want to keep learning. I literally watched a sermon every day and then went back to read the entire chapter from the referenced scriptures after each one. And when I still struggled to understand, I went to YouTube. Eventually, coming across the Bible Project, I watched every episode. I love that channel. I continued to work with my therapist, and the more I did, my brain began to unlock. It was no longer a demolition match in my head. It became precision racing, like the speed and congestion of NASCAR, with paths leading in many directions, like the curves of F1, and wild and out-of-the-box thoughts and ideas like rally racing. But the beautiful part about it was that the collisions were at an all-time low. With this being the case, I started learning from everything I could find that was free, and that included all things dealing with writing, literature, and reading. And I even took a couple of Bible courses through Hillsdale College, all for the sake of trying to become a writer. I even signed up for Zooms and webinars I could find, while I still wrote samples about my feelings on the side, and little by little, my writing began to change. It wasn't from a dark place anymore, but still, there was something that kept me feeling like I was stuck in a burnout pit, spinning tires endlessly and getting nowhere, like at the start of my favorite type of racing, drag racing. I wasn't being as hard on myself as I was before, but now I was rushing and forcing everything. I couldn't handle the feeling of being stagnant. Days of lying in misery had already taken so much of my time. I hated feeling like I was in making progress when I felt like I should and could actually do something. It was until I heard a sermon about moving at the pace of grace that I began to truly understand that. I had been hard on myself in more ways than one, and on so many different levels. I had heard many people tell me in my life that the things I've been through weren't my fault. But when my therapist said it, it hit me to my core. It was like she looked straight through me and spoke directly to my inner child, who was still hurt. This hit me hard, and I cried for the first time from the inside out. And it was also the first time I cried during one of our sessions. That evening, between the revelation of learning about the pace of grace, my therapist telling me that my experiences weren't my fault and that it was okay. I couldn't handle the multitude of emotions that were flooding through. And I remember praying and asking God if He would do to me like the Ethiopian eunuch in the Bible. When he asked to be baptized at that moment, I took a shower, having faith that He would, and I dunked my head underwater backwards 3 times, just like I had seen them do in all the movies. And when I tell you, it felt like a weight was lifted that I didn't know I was carrying. My. I began to cry in a whole new way. I was no longer crying for help. This was me crying out of gratitude for the first time. It wasn't clear, but I felt hints of how far I had come. It was also around this same time that I would be able to take a course with a best-selling author, and not just any best-selling author. She's a national one. I couldn't afford it the first time I saw it, but I subscribed to her newsletter anyway, just in case. And even though to her it may not have been, to me it was divine intervention. The course had dropped hundreds of dollars, and even though I still didn't have it, I felt like it was a much easier number for people to swallow if I asked for help, even if they didn't believe in me. What could I say? I honestly didn't either, but I wasn't going to give up. Before I could even begin to explain it all, my cousin, who understands me the deepest, had already put the money in my account. I cried a lot. But this was the start of being able to cry for joy, because even the smallest of things was going my way. And her course was truly amazing. She not only helped me begin to hone my craft and get better at expressing myself, but she also gave me the confidence to feel like I could one day become an author, and maybe even a best-selling one too. By the end of her course, I had 3 book titles and 2 outlines done. and I had already started writing chapter 3 of my autobiography. I was starting to see the difference between forcing my way through things and dealing with them at the pace of grace. Even though I felt like I was moving slower, and to others, it even seemed like I wasn't accomplishing anything at all. I had been accomplishing more than I could even keep up with, and even though at the time I couldn't tell, I was taking steps closer and closer to truly being at peace. As it became close to the time for therapy to end, I can remember my therapist asking me if I wanted to see another therapist. And for once, my answer was clear. No, that's okay. When our sessions stop, I am going to let the Holy Trinity be my therapist. And for our remaining weeks, she made sure that I was prepared. And in that same time, this was when she cleared me of every single mental health diagnosis that was placed upon me since the time of my mental breakdown while working at Wells Fargo. This is why it seems like I'm on repeat when I keep mentioning to make sure that you take moments throughout the day to find the beauty in it. Sometimes the best way for us to catch up is to slow down. If you like this, please feel free to like, comment, and share it with your friends. Help me to grow this community so that when this pre-launch stage is over, we can work as a team to reach as many people as possible together to get this book into as many hands as we can. I don't tell my story for fame. I tell my story to connect. That's why my book is called Lost But Not Left, because I want anyone who has ever felt like they've worn a mask, heard that they were hard on themselves, ever felt lost, ever related to being misunderstood, and to anyone who has ever suffered and struggled to know that they aren't alone. With all love, Janelle Newman.